Welcome to Screw the Commute, the entrepreneurial podcast dedicated to getting you out of the car and into the money. With your host, lifelong entrepreneur and multimillionaire, Tom Antion.
Hey everybody, it's Tom here with episode 51 of Screw the Commute podcast. We got a great guest. I've known this guy for a long time. He's been there since the beginning when I came around. His name is Jim Edwards. I think I met him at a secret invitation-only meeting of internet marketers. Oh, God, it's over 20 years ago. I don't know exactly when, down in Florida somewhere. But this guy really knows his stuff. So we'll get to his intro in just a moment. Now, please don't tell me you missed episode 50, the last episode, with sponsorship expert Roberto Candelaria. This guy taught you about getting big companies to finance your business endeavors. And guess what? You don't have to pay it back. This is crazy. So make sure you go back and listen to episode 50 if you missed that. All right, our sponsor for today is How to Automate Your Business ebook. This is a book with techniques that we tried to figure it out of how many keystrokes it saved me. And this is not an exaggeration. It saved me over 7 million keystrokes. And that's just in typing emails alone, just one of the techniques I teach you in this inexpensive ebook. There's tons of other tips I use to handle as many as 150,000 subscribers. And in the past, run my entire business with one part-time temp person. I mean, the only time I started adding employees was when my accountant told me I had too much retained earnings, and I'd rather pay employees than buy bombs through taxes. So check out that at greatinternetmarketing.com/automate. It'll also be in the show notes at screwthecommute.com/51. This is episode 51. All right, let's get to the main event. Jim was one of the first to publish an ebook online back in 1997. That's the same year Microsoft Front Page came along and a mere mortal could make a web page. He's taught hundreds of thousands around the world about self-publishing, sales copy, email marketing, membership sites, and a bunch more. And he's most famous for his online software wizards, which make critical tasks like writing ads, sales letters, and webinar scripts push button simple. Jim, are you ready to screw?
For the third time today, yes, I am.
You just got the best answers. Some other guy said, "Oh, my wife's name's not Commute." Screw the Commute. But you just beat that with that answer. So great. So hey, it's been a while since we caught up. It's natural when you only live, 35 minutes that you never see somebody in 20 years. So tell us what you've been up to.
Well, basically, what I've been doing over the last 2 decades. It's funny. 1997, back before the turn of the century, we were selling ebooks.
That's right.
And pretty much what I've been doing is just keeping in mind the principles of how you actually make money online or in any way. And that is by providing massive value for specific groups of people. And my thing's always been figuring out the next cool tool or the next wave that's coming on the internet and trying to get in front of that, kind of like you down in Virginia Beach surfing. You got to get in front of the wave. You can't catch it after it's already past you. So my big thing has just been seeing what wave is coming. And so it's always, I did ebooks, we did MP3s, we did teleseminars, webinars, video, all these things, and we're really in front of them. And my big thing's been to use them to build my business, but then also to turn around and show people how to use those things to build their businesses too. Because really, if you think about it, Tom, our business, we really have 2 businesses. There's the business of doing what we do, which in my case is writing books, creating courses and selling them. And then the other part of my business is teaching people how I'm writing books, how I'm creating courses, and how I'm selling them. So I keep pretty busy.
Yeah, I know. That's exactly what we do. But you did mention we're kind of old school, and it's still the basis of what we do is help people.
Sure.
With all it's just a new tool that might come around, but we're still just doing basic helping people. In fact, I got a new ebook coming out called The One Sentence Business Plan, because I've been using it for 40 years, and it's basically taking care of people. But so did you ever have a job?
Oh, I had a shit ton of jobs. I had a bunch of jobs. I like to tell everybody that, and it's true, when I graduated from William & Mary in 1989, I quit or got fired from 7 different jobs in my first 18 months. And the funny thing is they were all sales jobs, including driving for Domino's, because you had to kind of be a good salesperson in order to get good tips. And so I learned how to work on 100% commission, which at the time I thought was a living hell. But looking back, it taught me how to make a living by figuring out how not only to provide value, but also to communicate that value to people in such a way they were willing to write a check. And so every job I've ever had has been a sales job of some kind or another. And the funny thing is I majored in history. So there you go.
Well,
I didn't go to school for this.
Yeah. So basically, even the Domino's thing was verbal copywriting, and I know you're a copywriting expert. It's really a technique involved in getting people. So, what are some of the tips you'd have for people that want to sell themselves better?
Well, I think the one thing that you should always do is know the value that you bring to the table and be able to communicate it quickly. So one of the things that I always try and do when I'm looking at either a service or I'm looking at a book or something, what can I say in the shortest amount of time that's going to communicate the big idea about that? So it's like you said in my intro, my big thing is taking complicated problems that people have in online business, like how do I write a sales letter? How do I create email sequences? How do I even create a book? And I literally create tools that make it push button simple for people. So that would be the first tip, is you need to be able, when you have your moment to tell people this is the value I bring, you need to be able to communicate it really, really fast and really, really simply. Mm-hmm. The next thing you need to understand is that people don't care about you, they only care about themselves. And I don't mean that in a flippant way at all, but most people have their brains tuned to one radio station, and that is WIIFM. What's in it for me? We're all that way. And as the world has gotten busier and busier and busier with social media and 5,000 emails a day coming in and all that good stuff, in order to cut through the crowd, need to communicate what you have to offer in a way that they can understand the benefit to them immediately. No thinking. You cannot force people to think. They don't have time to think.
There was a famous book way back when we started, and the name of it was "Don't Make Me Think."
Yeah, that's true.
The same thing today, even more important today.
More important, and getting more important every single day. And I would say the third big tip I'd have for you, just when it comes to copywriting and salesmanship in print or in video or whatever, which is really what copywriting is. It's using words, it's salesmanship, is don't think of copywriting as a separate thing from everything you're doing. In other words, copywriting should be baked into everything you do. Copywriting is really communication. And so when you're communicating with people, you should always be trying to educate them, to empower them and entertain them. But you also need to let them know what you've got. And there are a lot of different quickie techniques you can use to do that. I'll give you one right now. If a lot of us create content online, and we use that to attract attention, especially in this whole news feed mentality environment we're in now. It used to be that we could send a single email with an article in it, Tom, and we were a rock star for a week.
I know.
I built my business for a couple of years just by sending an article every Tuesday. Mm-hmm. Now, you put an article up on Facebook or something, it's gone in 15 seconds. So you've got to be able to constantly stay on people's radar. but you can't be so hard closed sale all the time that people will get turned off. So one of the things that you can do is any type of content that you do, you can add to it an invitation statement. And I'm sure you know this.
Mm-hmm.
And you basically say, hey, here are 3 tips for how to improve your headlines. And you give them the 3 tips, whether it's a Facebook Live video, it's a pictographic or whatever it is. And then you say to them, and by the way, if you like this, I'd like to invite you to check out my blog where we have multiple articles on copywriting. Then the next time you come out with something that's like, hey, by the way, I'd like to invite you to check out my low-cost ebook on how to write a sales letter in 30 minutes. Or by the way, hey, I'd like to invite you to check out this cool software I've got called Easy Sales Copy Wizard. You fill out 27 different blanks, take you about 20 minutes, and it'll create a sales letter for you, emails, all this different stuff. And that's a way that you can put sales copy in with your content really, really easily and just subconsciously program people to know that you are in business, but that you're not like the used car salesman. So those are 3 tips. I hope those are
that's
helpful.
great. A lot of people though are just so afraid of marketing themselves. And I've heard a lot of people say, and I've said it myself, that listen, you're cheating people. If you really believe your product's going to help somebody and you're apprehensive about telling them about it, somebody else that's terrible that's going to rip them off is going to tell them about it. So
yeah, on JV Zoo.
There are many other places for sure.
Yeah.
So don't feel bad about it. You're actually helping people that'll thank you for it, because if you're a reputable person, listen to this, then you're going to be taking care of them. So,
and you're really cheating people if you don't do it. No, we don't like to cheat people.
No, we do not. And you're cheating people if you don't get your knowledge out there and that's what making products is all about. And Jim certainly helps people with that too. Now, do you remember the moment, or was there a moment when you transitioned listen, I'm tired of this, getting fired, quitting, hating these jobs, and I'm going to go out on my own? Was there a specific moment or a transition period?
Yeah, there was there was kind of a transition, but then there was a specific moment. The transition was, and it wasn't like this, the gates opened and I heard angelic voices. And it was like,
towards the light, go to the light. Yeah.
No, in fact, everything went to hell as soon as I did it. I remember when I did, it was 1997. I was working at Century 21 Old Williamsburg, and I was the sales manager. And I was just done. I was just freaking done. And I had been making web pages for other people, and I had been diddling around and I said to my wife, I said, I don't know how, but I know that my future is this internet thing. I said, and I've got to go for it. And she said, well, okay. And so I quit my job, started I remember I told the broker, I said, I'm out of here. I got to go. I'm tired of this.
You just quit?
And yeah, I just quit. I just walked out. And so I started a website design company with a fraternity brother of mine, and it failed miserably, and I went bankrupt. I developed a heart condition. I lost everything. I was living in a trailer, and
your dog died, and
the dog didn't die.
Stolen.
I had to figure out how
I thought this was a country
figure out. Yeah, no. And my wife didn't run off with a pig farmer. But it took me 4 years to get my stuff together. So it wasn't like I left my job and everything was wonderful. Everything went to hell. And it was 4 years of hell before I got it figured out. And I had gotten, the business failed. I ended up having to go get another job. I went to work for a company that did search engine promotion, and but I was still trying to work my stuff on the side. And all the while my skill set was building up, but my trust in myself and belief in myself was actually all going to crap. And so I had the skill set, but I didn't have the belief. And so that's why.
How was the home life at the time? Because a lot of people face these kinds of situations where one spouse is trying to do something, the other one is scared to death and afraid. So how did that go?
My wife is the biggest blessing that's ever been in my life
She's an
ever.
angel.
She
She's an
she
angel.
has supported me from day one and never ever told me I had to give up on my dream. She did tell me, hey, if you can't make
We need
this
to
work,
eat next week.
yeah,
Don't
if
forget
you
about
can't.
that.
Well, it was funny. After I got fired from the job at the search engine promotion company, after we had just bought our first house, moving out of the trailer park, we hadn't even made our first house payment yet, and I got fired from the
Oh
job.
my God.
And she said, "Well, you got 30 days to make this work." But then she said something to me that instead of me panicking, it it brought everything home to me that I could do it. She said, "You made $300,000 for this guy, that the one who fired me. If you could just do a fraction of that for us, we'll be doing better than we've done in a really long time." And I was like, "Damn, she's right." And I ended up, this was June of 2001, and from August 2001 to December 2001, I made more money than I had made the previous 4 years combined.
Wow.
And I just did it. In other words, I stopped worrying about it. I stopped wishing for it. I stopped doing all the things that we sit around and we paralyze ourselves with. And I came up with a plan, and I just freaking took massive action. Now I was working 16, 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, but it paid off and it was worth it.
That could have been a
And
lot different had she said some other words. Just think of that.
yes, she'd have said, "You're screwed, go get a job," we would not be talking right now. And
Man,
I would not be living in a 7,000 square foot house on the water.
man. You know what? Once you get out of here, let me talk to her. She sounds like
She's having fun.
Oh man, and what a story. I didn't know any of that stuff. Again, she helped you out there, but you put in that time. That's they always say an entrepreneur will work, 20 hours a day to get out of working for somebody else 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
but
it's
you
true.
did it, and it came through. So, having been through all of that and just quitting cold turkey, and I don't know how much finances you had in the bank when you just said I'm
Nothing.
out of it. Nothing.
Nothing.
So, having gone through that, what kind of advice would you give to somebody now that was thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, that's sitting in that cubicle and hating it? Would you tell them to do the same thing?
No, and I'll tell you why. What you need to do is you need to be hungry, but you don't need to be scared. You don't need to be petrified. I was petrified of how we were going to eat, and petrified can freeze you. What you need to do is get yourself into a position where your basic bills are covered, but nothing else. In other words, you're going to have somewhere to live. You're going to have something to eat. The electricity is going to stay on. The phone's going to stay on. You can put gas in the car to do what you need to do, but nothing else. You don't have money for Netflix. You don't have money to go out to eat. You don't have money to do anything other than just bust your butt and work on your business. That would be the number one thing I would tell you to do. So don't quit your job, or don't quit your job unless you have an income that is going to keep you in groceries. Okay, not nice groceries, but something to eat. We delivered papers. I taught computer classes in people's homes at night. Dude, I was teaching people how to use Outlook Express in their house at night, and they didn't even know how to use a freaking mouse. And I'm just like, oh my God, what is wrong? But see, you can use that as motivation and fuel to drive you when you're busting butt on your business. So don't just up and quit. I also would tell you, don't just, I've got a nest egg. I've got, $10,000 in the bank.
Yeah, that goes fast.
That goes faster than you'll ever think about. So one thing that did happen to me, and I'm a big believer in the universe. This is true. I'm not making any of this up. The day I got fired from my job and I came home, my wife and I had that conversation, and she said, you got 30 days to make it work. I actually got 2 phone calls. One of the phone calls was from a lady who I had done some consulting work for. I made a website for her, and she said, "Hey, my assistant just quit. I need somebody to do all my computer work for me. And I had a background in real estate too. I said, well, I'm not showing anybody any houses or anything. And she said, no, I need you to come work my computer and just take care of my email and put together CMAs and do all this other. She listed off all this stuff. And I said, well, crap, let me take a chance here. Okay. Because I wasn't making hardly any money from the job I got fired from. I was only making $18,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I said to her, okay, I'll come work for you 20 hours a week, but you have to pay me $25 an hour. And I was like, there's no way somebody will pay me 20. I'm making like $500 an hour now. And I was like scared to ask her for $25 an hour. I said, I'll come work for you from 1 o'clock in the afternoon till 5 o'clock in the evening, Monday through Friday. And I expected her to say, no, I can't do that. She said, done. When can you start? I was like, holy crap. I just
for 50.
I gave myself a $500 a month raise and I got half time.
Right.
So what I started doing was I got up. I was getting up at 5 in the morning. I would work from 6 to 12:30, and then I would work for her from 1 to 5. And then when I got home, I'd work from like 6 to 8, 6 to 9, 6 to 10. But I replaced my income. And so don't leave your job until you can replace the income you need to keep moving on down the trail.
And those days sound like total busters, but we're going to get in a little later on what a day looks like for you now.
Okay.
So before we get that, have you ever been screwed in business? What'd you do about it if you did?
I did get screwed in business really badly. My fraternity brother, who I had the website development company with, I thought we were partners, but I didn't understand agreements and other stuff like that. And I didn't have any money, and I had quit, and I'd put my job at the real estate company. So I'd put myself in a job. I had to take what I had to take. So I ended up owning 5% of a company that I had no control over, yet I was responsible for generating all the money. And I had to go hat in hand to the person who wasn't making the sales to ask to get paid. And that was part of what contributed to me having my heart condition and going bankrupt. Was I went 6 months without getting paid because he was spending money on a bunch of stuff we didn't need.
Enormous stress.
And it was terrible. And what did I do about it? I sucked on it until I just couldn't anymore. And I said, you know what? I'm done. I have to quit. I can't do this. And I learned from it. And I learned that nobody writes checks for my business except my wife and me. I learned that nobody takes money for the business except my wife and me, and then we pay other people.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned a lot from it and I learned you don't go into business with friends unless you really have your eyes.
You lose your business.
Yeah. So it's just all around. It was a great learning experience, and the most painful ones are usually the best ones. But the biggest thing I learned is that you can't look back and whine about it. So many people will tell you why they didn't make it or couldn't make it, or they would have made it if only, woulda, shoulda, somebody else had done something. Screw that. That's in the past. That's like standing at the back of your boat and thinking that the wake you see out the back is what is driving the boat. The wake does not drive the boat. The engine drives the boat. You can turn it. The wake is in the past. It's what's out in front of you that matters.
Same with the tail wagging the dog.
Exactly.
So let's switch gears. Anything crazy funny happened to you in your business life?
The thing, not funny, haha, but funny, holy crap, was when I needed to replace my income in that day, and I got that call. Her name's Joyce, and Joyce called me, and I replaced my income with a single phone call.
That's bizarre. I mean, it's just the universe sending what you needed at the time.
And then the next phone call I got was from a buddy of mine. His name was Yannick Silver, who I had met.
I had dinner with him all the time when we lived up in. I think he still lives up around there. When I used to live in D.C. and we'd have dinner all the time. Yeah,
and he called me, and he because I'd emailed him and said, "Hey, you can't email me anymore. You got to email me at home." And he called me up, and the first thing he said was, "Congratulations." I'm like, "What?" He said, "Congratulations, man. The universe finally kicked you out of the nest, and you're going to go make it." I was like, right. Holy crap. And so he and I talked on the phone for 2 hours and outlined a book called 33 Days to Online Profits that basically took everything I had learned over the last 4 years, everything he had learned over the previous 2 years. And in the space of about 6 months, we generated $300,000.
Oh, man, that is great.
So all that happened in that same day, that day I got fired.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a long day.
Yeah, I guess so. So what do you like best about working for yourself, and what's the worst part about working for yourself?
The thing I like best about working for myself is that nobody can tell me what to do. And the worst part about working for yourself is that nobody's going to tell you what to do. You have to figure out what you should be working on. If you have employees, you have to figure out what they should be doing. You have to become a leader, a mentor, the kind of person who actually, not a manager, but really you're at the, especially in an entrepreneurial organization, you are the person who is like the captain of the ship back in the days when they were going out on the oceans and exploring the world, and there was no guarantee that you would come back, and there was no GPS. So you needed to have some cojones and some vision and a little bit of crazy. But the great thing is that if I have an idea that I really believe is going to make a big difference in people's lives and that I think is going to bring a whole bunch of value to the marketplace, then nobody is going to tell me I can't do it except the market. And hopefully I understand enough about my audience that I will be able to give them what they need in such a way that they feel compelled to pay me, either pay me with their attention or pay me with their referrals or pay me with their money. So that's the best thing I like about working for myself is nobody can tell me what to do. And the one other thing I would say, and I just thought about this, but I want to make sure I put this in there. You asked me, any things about working for yourself or stuff like that. Save your freaking money. I'm going to go off on a little tangent here. I see so many people, I have seen, and you have too. We see these, and it's mostly guys who do it. All right. I haven't really seen any women do this because I think women are smarter than guys.
Yep.
They think that their great paycheck this month is going to continue for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, and it goes into a Lamborghini that they sit in front of to get the picture before it gets repossessed.
Exactly. And they go and buy a big house if they can. They buy a Lambo and they start walking around big pimping, smacking their gum. And then all of a sudden they turn into a one-hit wonder. Why? Because they got lucky with a product idea or something. They got the right person to help them with something. And then there's no substance. There's no audience knowledge. There's no understanding of the basic principles. Just bringing it right back to what we talked about at the beginning. The old school principles of who's my audience, what problem do they have, how do I solve that problem? And so be careful. My guiding philosophy is I spend last year's money this year, not 5 years from now money this year, which is what most people do with credit cards.
Yep.
So you need to save your freaking money. That would be the other big thing I would tell you.
Yeah. And
go
ahead.
No, I was going to say, and don't listen. I had someone that tell me when I was living in my little white house that we had bought after we got out of the trailer park, which, by the way, I paid that house off in 18 months. Wow. That was the proudest thing I've ever done in my life. And I had somebody say to me, someone I'm not going to tell you who it is, who said to me, "Why are you living in this crappy little house?" And I was like, "Screw you, dude. This house is paid for. But why are you living in this? Why don't you leverage other people's money and you could be living in a big house?" And I remember looking at him and I said, "Well, because when I get the big house, I'm going to pay cash for it and no one will ever be able to take it away from me." Uh-huh. And that's what I did. So have a little delayed gratification in your life too, because it also will give you the ability to do what you want instead of being forced into that cycle of promotion after promotion after promotion after promotion, because you got to make bills this month. And Tom, that the vast majority of people who are doing this, that's exactly the cycle that they're in.
They can barely make their car payment. They can barely pay their rent, but they're the big shot that just did this giant release or launch, and they're the big shot of the world. Well, no, they're not.
Yeah, exactly.
and that I'm glad you brought up the delayed gratification, because one of my students, her dad, he's passed away now, but he's kind of the one that made this marshmallow principle famous. His book on it was 4 million copies. And the principle was, they did this study with little kids, and they put a marshmallow in front of them and said, "Hey, we're going away for 15 minutes, and you can eat that marshmallow if you want. But when we come back, if you haven't eaten it, we're going to give you 2 marshmallows." So they came back, and some 60-70% of the kids had eaten the marshmallow before, and then that was the end of it. They tracked these kids all the way into their 20s, and the ones that waited for the second marshmallow, in other words, that were okay with delayed gratification, were doing great in school, had great jobs and good relationships, everything. Most of the ones that ate the marshmallow to get the quick satisfaction were, on drugs and
loaded
out
with
of
credit
card debt, all this stuff. Yeah. So famous principle, but it's exactly what we're talking about. And people, I'm sure the people around here that work for me wonder, I go on these buying apps. Like my school, I furnished my whole school with these gorgeous cherry desks. We got 4,000 square feet of office space, and at $1,500. One of the desks would cost $1,500 to $2,500, but I found them off a Craigslist ad somewhere and got my pickup truck and went and hauled them and cleaned them up. And they say, "Well, why are you doing that? You're Mr. Big Shot." Well, because I wouldn't be Mr. Big Shot if I played Mr. Big Shot by just blowing money all day. All right,
my grandpa, who was a very, very successful entrepreneur, he started out in the 50s building small single-family homes for all the GIs coming home from World War II, and then he progressed to strip malls, and then enclosed malls, and then mini storage warehouses in that order. Now you look back over the real estate of the 60s, 70s, 80s, and was he on the trend? And he was very, very well off. But he told me something I'll never forget. He said, "No matter how rich you are, you can only spend $1 once."
That's a good saying.
So
now, who's that super rich guy, the stock guy, and lives in just a regular house? The guy that
Warren Buffett.
Yeah, Warren Buffett. The guy that's started Home Depot. Just
Sam Walton was that way too. He drove a old Ford pickup truck to work every day.
Yeah. So don't play the big shot, and you'll become the big shot. Right?
Exactly.
You play the big shot before you'll never get there.
Exactly. And once you're there, you got it. That's great.
All right. So how can people work with you? What do you got going? You got so many products over the years. What's some ways people can work with you?
My big thing right now, and really into the future now, my thing is what I do with these, I call them wizards. And my thing's always been, I've always tried to make what I call the liberal arts end of the internet easy for non-technical people. And when I say liberal arts end, I mean the writing and the content creation and the sales letters and all the stuff that we all need to be able to do, like write a sales letter, write an email follow-up sequence, like create an ebook, which we all need to have our own book, be able to write ads, all these things. It's really hard for people to do. And so
it's actually easy for them to do if they knew how to do it. So that's what you and I help people with, because it's none of this is all that hard, really. You know that, Jim. It's just that people make it hard like a big monster in their mind because they've never done it before.
They do. And also, since they don't do it on a regular basis, when they do learn how to do it, it's easy to forget how to do it if you're not doing it all the time.
Yeah, that's also true. Yeah.
So what I have done is I've taken all these things and turned them into software. And whether it's filling out an online form and having it spit it out, or it's a downloadable piece of software, all the way to something that will generate 3 different kinds of sales letters for you, a complete email sequence, all your ads, all these things. And so that's really what I do.
You're the wizard man. Yeah.
No, yeah. But that's really what it is. And so
you've got a variety of these to pick from depending on what somebody needs. Then.
Exactly. If you need to do a podcast, if you need to write a sales letter, if you need to write a book, if you need to create a cool PowerPoint presentation, if you need to write a 12 email follow-up sequence, if you need to write Facebook ads, Twitter, tweets, TWIPs, whatever, all these different things, we can help people with doing that. And
Beautiful.
it's real easy to do. If you can fill out a form and whack a button, you can be successful.
All right. So in the show notes, we're going to have links to various stuff that Jim has to offer, so you can check it out. Remember, this is episode 51. 51. That's right. I remember those days. I was 51.
I'll be 51 this year.
Well, I'm so over the hill, I can't remember going up the hill. So when we come back from our sponsor break, I'm going to have Jim tell us, he's already told us what the crappy days look like on the way up with, we're pretty much working 24/7, but it's a little bit different now, I'll bet. So when we come back from the sponsor, we'll get Jim to tell us what a typical day looks like and how he stays motivated. All right, now let me ask you something, folks. Wouldn't it be nice if things happened faster in your business? I mean, if things happened faster, you could get the same amount of work done in less time. Or, on the other hand of this, you could get way more accomplished in the same amount of time. Well, my ebook, How to Automate Your Business, shows you and your employees, if you have them, tons of ways to work more efficiently on both your computer and your smartphone. So pick up your copy at greatinternetmarketing.com/automate. We'll also have that in the show notes for episode 51. So we're back with Jim Edwards, prolific marketer from way back in the old days. And Jim, tell us what a typical day looks like for you now.
Honestly, a typical day for me now looks pretty much like the days 20 years ago. I get up.
You love it so much.
Yeah, because I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I mean, I'm doing what I love doing, and it's not work for me. It's I enjoy it. But pretty much, I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'll do 2-3 hours worth of work. And typically, I do organize my day a little bit better. I have my own little planning sheet I use where I pretty much try to. Well, I don't try. I get. First thing in the morning, I get my 2 most important things for the day done first thing in the morning. Mm-hmm. And then after that,
because you're fresh, or this is your method of making sure the important stuff gets done?
It's my both. It's when I'm the freshest and my mind is the sharpest.
Okay.
I'm one of those people that I can wake up and within 15 minutes, I'm doing my absolute best, most creative work first thing in the morning. So typically 2-3 hours on that, and then I'll work out for an hour and a half, real intense workout, like super intense. And so then what I'll do is after that, from about 10 to noon, I'm still doing creative stuff, catch up stuff, getting things done that require my attention. And then pretty much the afternoon is when I'll do things like webinars and meetings. I very rarely, there's only one person I'll meet with in the morning. Well, I take that back. 2 people I'll meet with in the morning. And the rest of the time, I only do meetings in the afternoon because that's not my creative time. That's what I call mechanical time. Mm-hmm. So that's when I do things like reviewing documents, reviewing editing, because editing for me at least is not creative. Promotional stuff, posting things, meeting with my staff, all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, it's pretty much, that's what my day looks like, but it's very organized and hierarchical as far as what I work on.
Is your wife involved in the business?
Yeah, she's the bookkeeper.
Good,
so
smart.
she manages all the money, she manages the employees and all that stuff. So I don't have to mess with it. So, I mean, she's great at organization and I'm great at creative and implementation.
Now,
so
are
that's
these employees outsourced or come to the house, or how does that work?
No, nobody comes to the house except every couple of weeks I have them come. We have, including my wife, we have 3 employees and we have 1 part-time remote marketing assistant. But my 1 employee is my niece who's worked for me since 2004, 2005. And the other is my daughter who works for us, but they work from their homes. They happen to live across the street from each other, but they live an hour and a half away.
Okay.
But so we
Keep it in the
communicate
family.
using,
Yeah,
oh yeah, well, why should I pay money to a stranger?
exactly.
But we communicate daily using Zoom. It used to be on the phone, and now we can jump on Zoom. I can say, hey, check this out, do this, boom, boom. And so I manage with quick 15-minute meetings instead of every month having to try and rein everybody in with an all-day bitch fest.
Yeah. So
So
would you
that's,
suggest that me at 63, I should go have some kids so I can hire them?
you should marry somebody with kids. That's what I did.
Oh, is that?
So, yeah.
Oh, that's a good idea.
So
See, folks, you get really great tips on this Screw the Commute.
there you go.
So how do you stay motivated?
My motivation has changed over the years. And beginning, my motivation was, hey, screw you, guy that fired me. I'm gonna bury you
Mm-hmm.
and have the internet celebrate me while they forget who you were. And that happened. Now, and then it changes. Hey, I want to create financial freedom for my family. And then when I got that, then it was, hey, can I set some pretty lofty goals as far as houses and cars and other stuff, and I got that. So now it's really about helping as many people as I can. And people use the word legacy and all this stuff, and I think it gets overused quite a bit. That's just me. I mean, I'm cynical, but I do think that you should be motivated by something more than just yourself, more than just having things. You should be motivated by the impact that you can have on the world. And that's kind of where I am now. I really kind of envision reaching back 20, 21, 22 years, however long it's been, and saying to that kid, 30-year-old kid who was trying to figure stuff out, here's the way to do it. Here are tools to help you do it so much faster. And this is really going to make a difference in your life. And so that's really what motivates me, trying to make a difference in people's lives, make it easier for them and help them realize their dreams. And I know that sounds kind of altruistic, but oh yeah, really, but
I'm crying. I'm sitting here crying, Jim.
Yeah, well,
no, they're great calls, and I'm feeling the same way too as I get older. I want to have an animal sanctuary. My thing is animals. Just crazy about taking care of the weak souls that can't take care of themselves.
There you go.
So any parting thoughts for all our screwballs out there? We call them screwballs that are listening to this. The people that want to get in business or want to improve their business.
I think there are three questions that have always guided me with this once I understood them and understood what I was trying to get done. And no matter what market you're in, no matter what you're doing, there's somebody you have to persuade to give you money. And people pay money to people who solve their problems. Mm-hmm. So here are three questions that if you will sit down and honestly answer them and then ask them of yourself occasionally, just to make sure you're still on track, they will literally keep you from screwing up. And that is, what problem do you solve? Who do you solve it for? And how do you solve it? Those are the guiding questions that will help you to understand where your value proposition is, who you're communicating with, and what your unique method of solving that problem is. So what problem do you solve? Who do you solve it for? And how do you solve it? Really is the underlying foundation of at least my business as an entrepreneur. So if you can answer those questions, you'll keep yourself out of hot water and you'll know where to focus your time.
Very well said. So, Jim, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us today. And everybody, make sure you check out the show notes to see all the kinds of great wizards that Jim has and all the other stuff that he has, because he's been around for a long, long time. And many of them know that I'm kind of a consumer advocate, and I've never, ever heard one negative thing about Jim Edwards ever. And my ears to the ground, and if something goes wrong, I hear about it. So you can be sure that he will take care of you if you deal with him. Now, please subscribe and review Now, if you're new to podcasts, and we've got instructions on how to do that at screwthecommute.com. Now, my next episode is 52. That's my Monday training session. This will be on affiliate selling. I make a lot of money by recommending other people's products, and I'll tell you about that in the next episode. So thanks to Jim. Check out his stuff in the show notes and get yourself a copy of my automation book. And Jim, we'll see you. Thanks a lot. Catch you on the next episode.